Officer Ryan Williams with the Fond du Lac Police Department in Wisconsin.
And please tell us what happened when you responded to the call at the duplex.
We got a call of a sexual assault where the victim actually came to the police department and reported it. Well, as we were getting more information, they found out that her young child may be with the actual suspect in the sexual assault. So hearing this information come on, I responded to the address to see if we could find the kid and make sure her child was okay. We attempted to make contact. After many minutes, we were unable to make contact with anyone, and other officers were arriving on scene and helping me out. Well, the decision was finally made that we were going to have to go into the house to make sure the kid's not in there, make sure that they're safe. So we obtained a key for the residence. It was actually a duplex. The female lived on one side of the residence and the suspect lived on the other. I actually, before we went in, I put on an extra ballistic tactical vest, which I had because I'm a canine officer and I raised my own money for it. So I threw on this vest, and I went in with two other officers and we cleared the victim's whole entire side of the residence. Then we found an open door in the basement that led to the suspect side of the residence. And we were given the go-ahead. We announced ourselves and started to clear the suspect side. We didn't hear anything. We came to the last stairway that went up to the last bedroom. I got about halfway up the staircase and I just heard a shot ring out. And when that shot rang out, my lungs instantly filled up with blood. So I knew I was shot, and I thought it was through the lungs, and so I knew it was a bad thing. And the first thing I thought of, I'm a relatively new father. It was my 1 and 2-year-old daughters at home, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. Well, what actually happened is I got shot in the shoulder by a .308 hunting rifle, and the impact forced me to spin around, and I actually got shot again in the back scapula area. And the shots kind of ended up dropping my shotgun and fell down the stairs on top of the officer behind me, and we were able to get out of the initial path of fire. And I sprang up and I grabbed my mic just out of like pure instinct. I yelled shots fired and started to leave the residence the same way that I went out. Another officer came with me and made sure that I found my way outside the residence. I then got outside the residence, was handed off to another officer, and we took cover. While we were taking cover, we just heard gunfire going off like crazy from inside the residence. And what happened was other officers were arriving on the scene, and the suspect was shooting at them. One of those officers was Craig Burkholz, who arrived on scene probably about 100 yards from where I was. And as he was running up to the scene, and we don't know what his intentions were, if he was coming to my aid or if he was coming to the call or the shots, but he was shot twice by the same .308 rifle I was shot with, and he was killed almost instantly from the gunfire. That happened about 50 yards from me. At that time, unfortunately, there was nothing I could do. I had so much blood in my lungs, I had really trouble breathing. I couldn't get good air in me, so I had to kind of just concentrate on breathing. And I also had the gunshot wounds in both shoulders. The ambulance finally arrived on scene, and we saw the ambulance. We had to run across the field, and I was still able to move. So even though I couldn't breathe really good, I still had a little bit of lung function. So lieutenant on scene kind of aided me, and we ran shoulder to shoulder across this field towards the ambulance. Well, the ambulance realized it would pulled up way too close to the gun battle, so it actually began to back up down the street. And so we were actually chasing the ambulance down the street, and I had some not so friendly words for our paramedics at the time, telling them to get back here, maybe with a couple expletives in there. But they eventually did stop, and I just want to get oxygen. I just want to get oxygen. And so they were able to give me oxygen. And I got in the ambulance, and I kind of did that self-assessment thing. I only heard one shot, and I told these are guys that I work with every day, so you know them, so that they're not going to give you any they're not going to lie to you. But I said I only heard one shot, and there was a wound here on my front shoulder, and there's one on my back. And you think of all the good stuff in between there that is going to be bad, and I could see their faces, and that's what they were thinking. So I immediately wanted to call my wife. It was a real hard decision. They made the decision, which was the right one, not to let me call her, because they had to get me moving, they had to get going, and they didn't want my wife to be in a panic and run around town, not knowing what's going on. So we have a Flight for Life right in our city. They ran me out to the Flight for Life, and the crew over there said that they needed to put a breathing tube inside me, and to do that they had to inoculate me or knock me out. And that's when I started to panic, not because I was like scared of dying, but if I was going to die, I wanted the chance to fight for my life. So I was actually kind of mad that I wasn't going to get that opportunity. I didn't want to just get knocked out and then that would be the end of it. So you know, I gave up a little bit of protest, but I didn't want to really make them mad either, since they were going to be saving my life for the next couple minutes. So I think though that was important, because I kind of went down with this fight in me, where that's why I recovered so fast. I was supposed to be in a coma for a week. 2 days later, I had enough of the breathing tube and wanted to pull it out, and they were able to pull it out. And I kind of woke up, and the first thing I said was, "Who's the officer that was killed?" Because I knew, I could see an officer. I didn't know it was Craig. I could see him laying down, face down. I knew by how he was laying, he was dead. So they were kind of shocked, because they weren't going to tell me everything right away. So, but you know, they told me, and then I wanted to watch the news, and they said, "Well, before you do that, we got to tell you one more thing, that your dog was shot too." And my dog was actually shot with my shotgun. When I dropped it on the stairs, the suspect ended up grabbing it, because it was a 6-hour standoff, and started firing shots into squad cars and put 2 rounds into my squad car, and my dog was hit by a shotgun slug. Well, what I realized, kind of, I had a lot of visitors and stuff, and everyone was so like thrilled to see like me recover, because I was supposed to be in that coma for a while, and I was kind of like brightening their day a little bit, you know, because they were going through a lot. We had an officer dead, and you know, they were going through the memorials and all this stuff, but then all of a sudden I was recovering fast, and I was kind of like the one bright spot of our whole situation. And at that moment, I kind of realized what my role was in this thing. My role was to bring our department back through this, to be the one little light in such a bad situation. And I kind of took a lot of pride in that, and I strived every day to get myself better, and to try to help get my department back. I pushed myself every day. I just set goals, and my first goal was to get out of ICU, because my kids couldn't visit me in ICU. So I asked the doctor what I had to do, and I did it all. You know, I pushed myself and got out of ICU in a couple days, and then I wanted to go to Craig's funeral, which was a week after the shooting, and it didn't even seem conceivable at first. And then I was recovering so fast, I was like, no, this is it. And I was able to attend Craig's funeral. I was released from the hospital after a week, and not only was it a huge moment for me, but it was a huge moment, I think, for, you know, my department and other departments, to show that, you know, we're strong, and we're not going to stand for this, and we're going to live on after such a terrible thing happened. And my dog was recovering just as fast as I was. I was out of the hospital in a week. He had more extensive damage. He was out of the hospital in a week and a couple days. And so, I mean, not only do we have people that all of a sudden realize that cops do all this, we have the dog lovers coming in and them. And I got so many cards and letters, and our community was so supportive. It was unbelievable. It was just, you know, it just really warmed my heart. And I don't think when I came home from the hospital, me and my wife cooked a meal for, you know, like 3 weeks straight, which was just awesome. And yeah, the cards from the kids and everything like that. And so I kept on recovering, and eventually, you know, I was ready, approved to go back to light duty. And you know, for us, light duty is logging evidence and making copies and stuff like that. It's just not my cup of tea. So I went to our chief, and I said, "Chief, how about this? Instead of me making copies and logging evidence, how about I go around to the schools that send us all these cards, and I repay them, and I'll do a little dog demonstration for them." And you know, what chief is going to resist that? And I definitely got more out of it than I think the kids did, but the kids loved it too, and we had a good time. And I was probably busier on light duty than I had ever been on full duty. This was my first time memorial, and I'll tell you what, I did the whole memorial experience. I hooked up with these guys from Wisconsin that did the Police Unity Tour in previous years, and so I did the tour from Jersey, and it was awesome. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Just so many cops, almost all of them going through the same thing that we went through last year, and you get to talk to all of them, you hear their stories, and that's what kind of brings the people alive. You know, you go to the wall and they're named, but there's a story behind every single one of those names, and when you're on the tour, you find out that story, and that's the cool thing.
How does it feel to have a national memorial to honor fallen law enforcement officers?
I think it's, well, not to overuse awesome, but it is awesome, but it's well deserved. These are guys that go out there every single day and perform their job, and they know the price they have to pay, and they definitely didn't want to pay that price, but they took the job knowing that that could happen, and unfortunately it did, and they deserve to be memorialized as heroes, because that's what they are. They're heroes. You know, most people wouldn't sign up for a job where they knew they were going to get shot at, or you can get hit by cars and all these things, but these guys did, these men and women did, and I think they deserve to be honored. You know, we honor our war veterans, and we should, and in a way, these cops are kind of like war veterans in a way. You know, we strap a gun on and we go out there. Yeah, sometimes we don't deal with people shooting at us all the time, but sometimes we do, and I think that there's a war, and it's not a war on the public, but it's a war on crime and criminals, and to keep the people safe, and that's what we do, and I think that it's well deserving.
Good. Excellent. Thank you.
Wow.